This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories, and welcome to my review of the Thrawn Duology. This is also known as the Hand of Thrawn series, and I'll be looking at both books, Specter of the Past and Vision of the Future. And honestly, I really enjoyed these books, and let's just go straight into it. And this story is really interesting because it has just a lot of things. It is the end of the Galactic Civil War, and with it you get to see how the conflict that really began in the original trilogy would ultimately end. And with it, it is a lot longer than it is in canon. I think it takes place around 15 to 20 years after the end of the original trilogy. I think it's closer to 15. I don't remember the exact number, but with it, it is just really interesting to see just how this ended, and it's a lot longer than the canon timeline where everything falls within a year after the Battle of Endor. And just this is a lot more realistic, and with it, we see that the Empire is looking for peace because they basically have no resources left and will just be losing more and more. But we see that Moff Deestra and a former royal guard and a con man disguising himself as Thrawn. Although they do know he's a con man, it's part of their deception. Go and make a plan to go and stop the Peace Hawks and have the Empire become even more powerful. And with it, the story is just really interesting. With it, you get to look at just really the last ditch effort by some Imperials to go and conquer the galaxy. You get a pretty great continuation of many of the characters from the Thrawn trilogy. And obviously, there's been a lot more stories in between them, which are referenced, and I'm not sure what all of them are, but I do want to read even more in the Legends continuity, which is a lot more interesting in the post Return of the Jedi era in terms of, books and stuff than canon is, with them not really focusing on main characters too much in the books. And it's more of, I'd say, in grand terms, secondary characters who are, although maybe main characters of their own stories in like films and stuff, they're not the big ones like Luke, Han, Leia, and Lando. And with it, the story here is just really interesting, and I really did enjoy it. There's a few different storylines that go on. The main one that we follow is probably what's going on with Leia and Han, and then Luke and Mara Jade. And with it, there's just so much interesting stuff that happens. I really enjoy the Luke and Mara story with it being separated, but also the fact that they actually made things worse for the galaxy unknowingly, because with it, it's clear that from, I believe, stuff that was written after the events of this book, and the threat they were referring to is the Yuuzhan Vong, which are part of the new Jedi Knight series, which I'm going to be reading soon. and with it, has a 19-book series that goes and tells about the very long and destructive war that happens between the Republic and the Yuuzhan Vong, and with it, Thrawn was preparing against that, and the entire Hand of Thrawn project was made not only to bring him back, but also to have a defense against them. So I honestly kind of like how they unintentionally made things worse for the galaxy by taking away their best chance of stopping this threat. And with it, throughout the rest of it, we get to see a little bit more into Thrawn's preparations and how he was even prepared for situations that included his death, with him having a clone of himself being made. And throughout the rest of it, we get to see Luke and Mara working together, and we see him the moment where they, truly confess their feelings to each other and prepare to get married. And with that, well, I think that it seems maybe a little rushed in there because it just kind of happens over the story where Luke realizes his feelings, and I'm not really sure how much was hinted at across the other books, but still, it was interesting to see, and I really liked the writing in it, and they were great together. Going on to the story with Han and Leia, they go and take on some major things. They do get separated at points, but are really just there together, and with them, they're going and just trying to go and deal with all these threats popping up, and with it, they just keep being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or what ultimately turn out to be the right place at the right time, where they continue to get in danger, but they are able to go and get the help they need. And yeah, honestly, this is all just it's really interesting. I really enjoyed their part of the story and just seeing them together, although their kids are taken out of the entire story with Chewbacca being with them on Kashyyyk, and we only get a brief mention of them, and I don't even think Chewbacca appears in the book, either book, but still, it's an interesting story, and continuing on, there's just so much more fun and interesting things that happen. I really enjoy the story of Talon Card going to meet up with his old boss, who he thinks is going to want revenge and everything, but we get to see how he's actually changed and become a better person. And you get some mysteries tied up from the Thrawn trilogy about why there was like a ship remote, I can't remember what its name is, on Dagobah in the Dark Side Cave. And yeah, honestly, that's all interesting with it, but like some of the most interesting stuff is from the Imperial perspective, where you get to see both the perspective of Admiral Pelion, who has changed a lot from the Throne trilogy, now taking full control of the Empire, at least as the military, and we also see that group I mentioned earlier with the entire Thrawn scam, and with it, I think the story worked really well. I really like how they had this all going and working to the side. And honestly, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think that it was just really well written, and Timothy Zahn is definitely one of the best Star Wars writers. He's made some great trilogies, including the original Thrawn trilogy, the canon one, and the Ascendancy one, which I never finished, but I will eventually. There's just a lot of books I wanted to read over those, and I'll eventually get around to finishing them. But yeah, honestly, this is a really good duology, and with it, the story is really compelling and interesting, and especially the second book, I just wanted to keep listening to it because I had the audiobook of it because I wasn't going to be able to find a physical copy in time, and it was a pretty long book with the audiobook being about a day in length, and with it, I listened through it throughout last week, and honestly, the story was just really interesting and compelling, and it's definitely one of the better Star Wars experiences I've had with a book. It's not my favorite, but it still was a really interesting story. And there was also the stuff with the Bothans, and that was all interesting to see with this joint thing and how it nearly led to a civil war that the Imperials are pushing to happen. And yeah, honestly, I really enjoyed it. I want to know what you think, though. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next episode of Legends and Theories. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.